It's hard to believe that my journey with Silver Sirens began 7 years ago. So much time and yet so little time has gone by, and there's been a lot of change around this conversation around aging. When I started Silver Sirens in 2018, I had no idea where we would be now, nor did I have a clue how much the conversation around aging would have evolved and expanded. My initial idea was around changing the negative narrative that surrounded women and aging. What really got my attention was that the narrative around men was always very positive. It was always this silver fox, this sense of distinguished elder gentleman. Yet when it came to women, the narrative was around diminishment and decay and the loss of value. So I was really motivated to change that. But to say that we want to change the narrative around aging, that's a big goal. And where do we begin? So for me, initially, it was around creating spaces where women could come together to talk about the challenges they had around aging. Now, I knew women of all ages that would never mention their age, that thought it was rude for someone to ask their age. And I knew that that meant that there was internalized ageism. A lot of these women didn't even realize or think there was anything wrong with their attitude. But the fact that they felt uncomfortable around their age or mentioning their age told me that they had ingested a negative narrative around aging, and they made it their own. It's like this belief that was external to them had become their reality. So I really wanted to do some work around how do we change that. And change never happens without awareness. So first of all, we had to make sure that we were having these conversations that allowed women to understand what they'd internalized and to understand that this attitude around aging was not necessarily their own, but one that they'd picked up from society around them. So one of my favorite authors or champions in this area is Dr. Anne Ring in her book, Engaging with Aging. And she challenges the negative association with the word old. And like me, she believes that old is just descriptive, just like tall, fair, fat, slim, whichever one you want to be comfortable with that. The other book that I really loved was a book by Dr. Stephanie Burns called The Dangerous Cultural Messages About Getting Older. And she talks about how at certain points in our lives, we associate or attribute anything negative that happens in our life to our age. So if we start forgetting things, memory loss, we start associating that with our age, even though we've lost things all our lives. If our bodies start to get creaky, we start to associate it with our age rather than maybe to the fact that we haven't used those muscles for a while. So for me, this whole journey around Silver Sirens and changing the negative narrative around aging is around challenging preconceived ideas, challenging beliefs around aging that most of us just take for granted. We just take it as a fact. And I think that when we bring awareness to it, we can start to look at these beliefs and start to really test them. You know, this whole movement, for me anyway, is 7 years old. I imagine and wonder what else we can achieve in 7 years' time. So come along with me on the journey and let's change this narrative together.